Minister, the next question will be number 4. You have to skip 3 a second. Deputy O'Connell has kindly agreed to let Deputy McGrath take his question, as is another engagement in the House. So, keep to the time.
I don't know for facilitating me. I have the business committee meeting at 10:30. Minister, look, the question is with the fodder crisis, which is severe impact in Tipperary, in East Waterford, the South Kilkenny, and across into Cork, East Cork certainly, and other parts of the country, but very serious impact there. I want to know what measures you're putting in place. I asked you here in July, and you were void of any answer, so I'd like to know what you're doing to help those very distressed farmers.
Minister's 2 minutes.
I'm grateful to have the opportunity to inform the House of the actions I've undertaken in seeking to ensure sufficient supplies of fodder for the coming winter and spring of 2019. A survey of fodder supplies in September conducted on my behalf by Taugust indicated that the potential national fodder deficit had reduced from 18% earlier this summer to 11% at that time. Further reductions are anticipated since the survey was conducted, as farmers continue to harvest fodder in what has been a productive autumn period on Irish farms. My priority is to support the conservation of as much fodder as possible for the coming winter from own resources and to supplement this with necessary imports as required. To achieve this, I introduced a number of targeted measures. I introduced a €2.7 million fodder production incentive for tillage farmers to encourage tillage growers to actively engage in the fodder market, and there has been a very positive uptake of this measure, I believe in the region of almost 20,000 hectares. I further announced a €4.25 million fodder import support measure for autumn of 2018. The measure seeks to reduce the cost to farmers of imported forage. While the measures will operate through the cooperatives and registered importers, the actual beneficiaries will be farmers who need supplies of fodder. Additionally, I secured agreement from Commissioner Hogan to pay higher advanced Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 payments, which will be increased to 70% and 85% respectively, resulting in €260 million in additional cash flow for farmers at a vital time of the year. Furthermore, following consultation with the EU Commission, my department made some temporary adjustments to the GLAS scheme for this year, and in consultation with my ministerial colleague Owen Murphy, a 2-week extension of the close period for spreading chemical and organic fertilisers was announced and has allowed farmers to capitalise on autumn grass growth for fodder production. I am confident that the range of measures introduced by me to date, taken together and targeted at producing as much fodder as possible from our own land, is the most effective response to ensuring adequate supplies ahead in the coming winter. I do not propose to introduce measures to support the importation of concentrate feed. However, I can assure you that I will continue to closely monitor and engage on this significant challenge during the coming period.
Deputy McGrath.
Minister, animal welfare and animal, sustenance is the most important thing to any farmer, and these other crops as well. But animal husbandry, they're excellent in it, and they are worried and there are fears. I note now you have revised downwards to 20%. You told me deficit 2 weeks ago here, and now it's down to 18. It's going down every day. I know. Sorry, 18 you said it was 2 weeks ago, you told me it was 22 weeks ago, 11 now. So I don't know who's giving you your figures and where you're getting them, but it's not real politics, it's not real on the ground.
Question. It's not a debate, it's a question.
I don't know what you're saying, but I mean, the reality on the ground is somewhat different. Thankfully, we've had a fortuitous fall of the year and growth, and I welcome the initiatives for the catch crops and indeed the tinkering with the scheme, the little bit of leeway you gave regarding the slurry and the other issues. They should be dealt with anyway, and it shouldn't be on a calendar dates anyway. It should be on weather conditions and not calendar, as I said, because the weather is all important, as you know. As you should know, you used to be a farmer, but you're so far away from now, I suppose. You're totally removed from agriculture, and you're in action all the spring, and then drifted into the summer, and then now we're right along with these figures.
Immediately, the Minister has 1 minute.
In all your contributions, Deputy, I haven't heard a single positive suggestion, which I think is a continuation of a theme. We've had this discussion, you and I, prior to the summer recess, when your contribution was equally as unfocused or specific. I have to say, on the other side, I had positive engagement with all of the stakeholders, which included farm organisations, and all of the initiatives, Deputy, that you denigrate and that have achieved substantial progress for farmers have come from that stakeholder forum. So in denigrating the efforts that we have delivered, you denigrate all of those stakeholders as well.
I get 1 minute and 1 minute only.
Any measures. I welcome the measures, how little as they were, I did. But your slowness of action, I was denigrating you for not doing it. Minister, I represent the farmers in Tipperary and the whole community. I mentioned the South Tipperary, also up in the very north of the county, Clough-Jordan. They were burnt completely with the drought. And you have made no real efforts. And I'd love to know who's giving you the figures and what are you giving these stakeholders and what encouragement or inducement you're giving them to come up with those figures, because the situation on the ground is way different. Many farmers have huge issues with not enough fodder and no way of getting funding to pay from. The banks are not effective, not working. The money announced last year in the budget wasn't drawn down. This year's budget was a damn squib as regards agriculture. It neglected them. The suckler herds are on their knees, as you know, and they wanted 200 per cow. You gave them 40 and you must go weighing calves and weighing the mothers and God knows what. They'll spend 50 to get 40. This is farcical treatment you're giving the farmers, Minister, and there are huge issues in other parts of the country as well. The West hasn't been badly affected, and possibly there's fodder that can come across from there this time in reverse to what normally happens. But your inaction is disgraceful, Minister, and your figures, whoever's manipulating them for you, but they're not real on the ground.
Mr. Creed. Minister.
I think the Deputy should reflect seriously on the accusation that he has laid against at the door of Tagus that they have manipulated figures. They have conducted a national fodder survey, and the veracity of which has been accepted by all of those stakeholders. I do accept that, you know, within that national deficit of 11%, there are individual holdings where it's more than that. And the best outcome, I think, in many ways from the stakeholder forum was the advice that's available and delivered through the advisory services, be it Tagus or the private advisors, or indeed through co-ops in many instances. That's really invaluable. But I think you should reflect, Deputy, seriously on the charge that you have laid that, you know, a state organisation has manipulated figures. You're seeking a cheap headline, Deputy. You're seeking a cheap headline, which I think is rather unfortunate, to be trying to make a cheap political point on the backs of farmers who've had an extremely difficult year.
Deputy, please. We're moving back.